Hello, everyone. Glad you all can join us this evening.
Hello, Anita, and everyone else. Hey,
How
Rick.
you doing,
Hey, Lucy.
Mr. Grimes? Yeah.
Good. Hey, Teresa.
Good evening, everybody.
This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone. I will give just a moment for all of those interested to sign in, as well as the Board of Education. I'll wait just another moment, and we'll start at 7:05. All right, it's 7:05. Thank you all for your attendance. Just a reminder, we are not only here remote, but we are also, or here meeting virtually. We are also on our district YouTube page for those who might want to participate and watch live. Or if we hit capacity. Right now, we do have ample room, but it has happened before where we're limited to 350 individuals. So if we exceed that number, the overflow is that YouTube page. We did consider coming back in person as the metrics are leaning in the right direction. The issue that we have Board of Education and Public with that is under the current law, we can only meet with 10 people, and not the law, but the order by the governor. So when we compared the effort to come back, meet with just one board member, and then potentially limit the amount of public that could actually be in the public meeting, we decided that for safety as well as accessibility, this was the best option until we enter the next phase. Which we hope to do soon, as long as the metrics and vaccinations can continue the way that they have. With that, I'd like to call to order the February 23rd, 2021 Board of Education meeting. The board previously met in closed session under exception C1 and C11. All right, with that, if I can have a roll call, please.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes, present.
Mr. McBride, Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Calhoun-Wozniak,
Here.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Present.
Mr. Castellanos, Mr. Ewing.
Here. We are, do have a quorum, and just as a clarification, C1, C11, and C2 were the three exceptions that we met in closed session. If we can have a motion to go into open session.
Mr. Riddle, I so move we go into open session.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Hannah. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. McBride, Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Calhoun-Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Mr. Castellanos,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes, all right, we're now in open session. Just some housekeeping things, as I know not everybody attends all of our board meetings. We do have a public comment time. Public comment will be coming up, so if that was something that you wanted to do, we do ask that you put your name on the list, which was in the notice. I also want to remind individuals is that typically the public comment time is the time for the public to address the board. And normally and during meetings, because this is just like if we were in person, except for it's virtual, I do not monitor the comments, right? So unlike during our committee meetings where I read them and answer questions from the comments, during our normal scheduled board meeting, which this one is, I do not read the chat. You're more than welcome to use it, communicate through that way, but just for housekeeping, I will not read the chat comments out loud. The other thing that I do ask is that if you're not speaking, if you please mute your line, it does help with transmission. So if you can please mute your line, that does help with transmission. There will be one exception, and this was because we had to move one of our presentations from our committee last week. So during superintendent's time, we will be doing a presentation on the McKinney-Vento program. And so if there are any community members who have questions during that time only during the meeting, we will allow it as it was promised and committed at our last committee meeting, since we did not do the presentation in that format. So with that, if we can move to the Pledge of Allegiance, Ms. Wozniak, if you'd be so kind.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible, with liberty. Justice for all.
Thank you for that. All right. And next up, we have our special recognition and presentations. So Waukegan to College will be presenting tonight. Do we have individuals, representatives from Waukegan to College on the line this evening?
Yes.
All right. I will turn it over to you all.
Okay, thank you. I want to introduce Waukegan to College to those of you who don't know us and reintroduce ourselves to those of you who are familiar with us. Next slide. Today we have Aaron Arnold, who's our new executive director. He started with us last month, and he is replacing Elise Dankers, who has been with us for 12 years. She was our founding executive director, and she is retiring this year. And I am Lauren Giles Johnson. I'm a tutor and a mentor and president of the board for Waukegan to College. Next slide. So our mission is to help students get to and through college. Next slide. And so our audience is 5th through 12th grade students who live in Waukegan or attend school in Waukegan. And we work with first-generation students, that's students whose parents did not complete a 4-year degree. And we are currently serving 170 students. Next slide. And so we do that in a number of ways. One of the things we do is advising and advocacy. We work with parents to monitor their students' progress. We make sure parents understand what their students need to do to be successful and competitive when they're applying to college. We help parents understand what to do if a child is struggling. And we also do college counseling. Next slide. Another thing we do is mentoring. High school students get a mentor who works with them throughout high school and throughout college, really doing anything that they need to do. This is my student, Samaya. She's a sophomore at NYU, getting straight A's, and we did all kinds of things together. Sometimes we go downtown and go to plays. Sometimes I would read essays. Sometimes I'd write recommendations, just whatever a student needs. Next slide. We do a lot of workshops for both students and parents, and these fall under 3 general categories. One is building ideal students. So we talk to students about study habits, organizational skills, the need to take AP courses. The next topic is college readiness, and we start this even with our middle school students. We talk to them about career exploration. For high school students, we have Zoom meetings every other week with admissions counselors. We talk about understanding career majors. And our third workshop area is what we roughly call adulting, things like budgeting, etiquette, building a LinkedIn profile. Next slide. We also, I missed something from the last slide. In terms of our workshops, we recently partnered with the Balance Project to bring our students a workshop on coping strategies for mental health and stress. And this Saturday, we're going to welcome Will Scott from the Becoming a Man mentoring program, who will present to our students. Okay, now next slide. Academic improvement, we offer students tutoring on any subject that they're struggling in. We also have a Read to Achieve reading tutoring program for reading and critical thinking skills, and we have 2 math tutoring programs. Next slide. For expanding horizons, we try to introduce students to colleges and careers. For example, for our middle school students, wherever possible, we send them to camps that are on college campuses in the summer, such as a math campus, such as a math project when that's available. We also partner with businesses like AbbVie, where 30 students recently participated in a panel discussion on careers. We also recently had a wonderful Zoom meeting with diverse employees from Pfizer who talked about their educational background and their career paths. Next slide. Once our students get to college, we follow them the whole way and help them with whatever it is they need. For example, if they have issues with financial aid or accessing resources, we'll help them work that out. If we get information on internships, we'll make sure our students get connected with those. Next slide. We have some wonderful parents who are extremely involved and engaged in our program. And the Parents Educating Parents program, for that, we teach parents about academic success information, and then they go out to organizations in the community and give workshops on those topics. And these workshops are available to parents throughout Waukegan. They don't have to be participants in our program to participate. Next slide. We also do school outreach. One of our program managers will go visit schools and talk to faculty and principals to encourage them to promote our program. Sometimes we ask them if we can come in and present to the students. We also give workshops on all kinds of topics like college application deadlines. Next slide. We've had 12 years of success. Now, these are 3 students who attended the big Chicago Scholars College Fair that takes place, normally it takes place in Navy Pier, but this year it was virtual. And they have admissions counselors from colleges all over the country. And if you go there and talk to them, they can offer you a spot. They can admit you on the spot. So these are 3 of our students who attended virtually this year. And I don't know if you can read them, but it shows the colleges that they were admitted to on that day. Next slide. And this is a list of other schools that our students have attended. Next slide. And we've had some very good results. All of our students, 100% of our students, our seniors, are enrolled in college. And our students graduate from college, get their bachelor's degree at 5 times the rate that their peers do nationwide. 70% of our students are on the honor roll or the high honor roll. Next slide. But we have a challenge, and we're hoping you can help us with it today. While African American students represent about 12% of Waukegan high school students, and 13% of all District 60 students, only 6% of African American students, only 6% of our Waukegan to college students are African American. Next slide. So we talk to parents, we talk to people in the community to find out why. And some of the feedback we got is that sometimes students and parents don't realize the program is for them. They go to the website and see first generation student. We don't define what we mean by that. They assume it means first generation in the US as opposed to first generation in your family who goes to college. In some cases, our parents were concerned about the time commitment required from the program. We got some feedback that our application process was cumbersome. We have since simplified that. And we also heard that we have a bit of a PR issue. Some of the community organizations that could refer students to our program didn't know about us. Next slide. So we are hoping that you can help us. And what we hope you would be willing to do is recommend students to Waukegan to college. Look out for African American students who want to attend college and refer them to us. And if you or anyone you know would like to volunteer with us, we'd love to have you help us. We have volunteer opportunities that can take place on one day, such as helping students practice for college interviews or reading essays, or we have ongoing opportunities like tutoring, being a reading tutor every week. Next slide. Other ways that would be helpful would be to connect us with local organizations that might want to hear from our parents for a parent education program, or just might want to partner with us, or might be a good referral source for students. And if you have feedback about Waukegan to College that you would like to share with us, please do so. We'd love to hear about it. Next slide. And here's the contact information for us. I imagine you'll be able to get a copy of this, or you could just go to our website. You can call or email any of us on the slide, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that presentation and for speaking about Waukegan College and addressing what some may say is a sensitive topic, right? I know that has been the effort and the focus on of Waukegan College over the last few years is increasing its African-American participation. And so nice to meet the new executive director. I worked with at least for a decade on many different things. So I'm glad to see that legacy continue. And wish her well in retirement. And thank you, Ms. Giles, for speaking this evening. Board members, before we let them go, are there any final questions? Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is Lucy Leguizamo. Just was wondering, as you're looking to increase your diversity in your program, does your program also visit historically Black colleges or colleges that are known as Hispanic colleges?
We have had, in years when you could do this, we've had one college visit a year that we take a group of students and go to, and often that's because that's what we have the budget to do. And so we take sort of a path where we go to a certain area. One year it was the Northeast, and we visit a group of schools all along, a driving distance from that path. To my knowledge, we have not had HBCUs on that list. That's not to say we couldn't, but I don't know that we've done that in terms of our college visits to date.
No, I was just curious about that. I know a lot of the students that I speak to are looking into getting into HBCUs. And so I think that would, I know as you're looking for a lot of feedback, I think that would also be a nice enticement to add to the program as well, just to give a little bit of feedback as well. So thank you all for everything that you do in our community. Appreciate it all.
Thank you. I appreciate the feedback.
I have one question, Ms. Johnson. Anita Hanna, and thank you for what you do at Waukegan College. I have been a proponent of diversity for Waukegan College from the inception. And I just was wondering, thank you for your effort in attempting to increase the diversity. And so I guess maybe I'm asking, what is your vision in terms of the recruiting of the African American students into the program?
So we have a couple of things that we are doing differently based on the feedback we got from our mothers. The first thing is we are changing the process, the application process. So what we used to do is send out a letter, and we'd have a face-to-face meeting. This year we had sort of a Zoom meeting. We asked people to send us certain documents like their transcript and so on. But I think we had 5, possibly 6 documents. Then we have a couple interviews and then they enter. Well, people found that process too cumbersome. So one of the things that we decided to do was just simplify. We just took a number of things off that list so it's easier. It doesn't take as much time. So we had 3 things that were impacting people joining the program. The first was getting the information out to people, which is not as difficult as it would sound because we will often just have the school send a letter out to all the parents, and we will also do other things as well. So one is making sure people hear about it. The second thing is making sure the process to join doesn't sound so time consuming and complicated that people decide, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do it now, maybe next year. And the third thing was having the program, once you got in it, not sound like it was just too much to do. For example, if you have 2 kids that are doing a lot of activities, maybe if you see the schedule of what we have in mind, it looks like you just couldn't possibly make all those meetings. And so you decide, you take yourself out of the running. I can't do this. So one of the things we've learned through the last year of everything being by Zoom is that things don't always have to have a face-to-face meeting on the same schedule. Things can be done electronically. They can be done by videotape or webinars or whatever. So we've tried to simplify and make it easier to do what we do so people don't feel like it is too much trouble. I don't mean it to sound like that, not too much trouble, but just too undoable from a time standpoint.
And that was that the very things that you cited were the things that through the years of Waukegan College that I was getting feedback from African American students and parents as well. And so I'm glad that you are that you're heading up this this initiative, and I will look forward to hearing at some point how your recruiting has been going. And I thank you so much. And good luck to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Go ahead,
Mr. Ritter, I just want to say thank you for your organization for partnering and being concerned about our kids in Waukegan. I know you've done a phenomenal job over the past 12 years, and I just continue with that. I know our Little Fort Lions Club has partnered with some of your kids, sending them away to a World Affairs seminar in the summer, and we've been impressed with the children that we met, and so continue to do the good work. I'm just pleased that you're partnering with our Waukegan kids and working with those that and continue to expand as well. I know your program has grown and grown and grown, and that's just wonderful. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Waukegan College. And we look forward to, is this year 11 or 12?
12.
12. So your continued progress in District 60. Thank you. All right. Next up on the agenda, we have item 6B, which is our celebrating our school leaders.
Good evening, Board President, Superintendent, members of the board, members of the community. Ms. Keelan and I are here tonight to pay tribute and celebrate the school leaders that we have the honor and privilege to work with every single day in our roles. And we wanted to take time today in the middle of the winter, in the middle of the pandemic, middle of all these plans going on with hybrid learning, and just take a second to reflect on the work that our school leaders have contributed to our district over these past few months. So Lee, if you don't mind advancing the slide, please. So we know for the past year almost that our school buildings have been closed, but our school leaders have ensured that school for students in the sense of learning stayed open. And so we wanted to really pay tribute to them and thank you for, this is nowhere near an exhaustive list of the things that they have done to keep our students at the focus these past 11 months. But some of the highlights that we did want to say thank you for were really supporting their teachers, supporting families, helping calm anxieties and fears, helping distribute learning materials for students and parents, maintaining energy and excitement. They've had so many different virtual and drive-by events, parades, parking lots, just really trying to keep the energy and excitement up and keep that connection with their students and their families. They are constantly advocating for their students and for their staff. They are the main hub of communication for all of their stakeholders. Many principals and assistant principals spend hours driving to homes, taking parent phone calls, scheduling parent meetings before school, during school, after school, just to make sure that parents have their questions answered. And so we want to thank them for being really a hub of communication for their building. They've also been working to ensure that all students have the supports and services and materials they need. Like I said, visiting homes to check on students. And while all of this is going on, they are still focused on working towards their school improvement goals and still working on making sure that teaching and learning is happening for their students. They have had 24/7 availability, and they have remained driven and focused and energetic throughout this all. And so we really wanted to take a second to say thank you to them individually and as a collective group for the work that they have done so far this year. Next slide, please. So thank you to Mr. Robert Silva and Ms. Stephanie Jackimson from Carmen Buckner. Thank you to Ms. Gladys Rodriguez at Clark Elementary. Thank you to Ms. Sandy Johnson at Clearview. Thank you to Ms. Stephanie Jensen at Cook. Next slide, please. Thank you to Ms. Cabrina Williams-Lanou and Ms. Jennifer Aldred at Glenwood. Thank you to Mr. Joel Ruiz and Ms. Kimberly George at Glen Flora. Thank you to Ms. Joyce Meyer and Ms. Stephanie Reuter at Greenwood Elementary. Thank you to Mr. Brian Carr and Ms. Melissa Lachelle at Hyde Park. Thank you to Ms. Amy Grossman and Mr. Andy Kramer at Little Fort. Thank you to Ms. Amanda Price and Mr. Grayson Flitcroft at Lyon. Thank you to Mrs. Carol May and Mrs. Pamela Crowell at McCall. Thank you to Ms. Nicole Lemberger and Ms. Natasha Pierce at North. Thank you to Ms. Catalina Quinones Nelson and Mr. Jose Salazar at Oakdale. Thank you to Mr. Jason Sigalak and Mr. Matthew Decker at Washington. Thank you to Ms. Jen Rice de la Sanchez and Ms. Jen Ellen at Whittier Elementary. Thank you to Ms. Nicole Session at Robbie Lightfoot. Thank you to Mr. Carl Hagman and Mr. Alex Ontiveros at Abbott. Thank you to Mr. Isaac Kirkwood and Ms. Tanya Kennedy at Jack Benny. Thank you to Mr. Clarence Berry, Ms. Molly Schaefer, and Ms. Amanda Nault at Thomas Jefferson. Excellent. Thank you to Mr. Nelson Campos and Ms. Chianta Myers at Miguel Juarez. Thank you to Ms. Yvonne Brown and Ms. Nicole Mangino at Webster. Thank you to Ms. Flor Carter and Mr. Michael Cicerelli at AOEC. Thank you to Mr. Tim Briner and Ms. Nicole Mackey and Ms. Beth Samuels at Brookside campus. And thank you to Mr. Daniel Hill, Dr. Mark Nyberg, Ms. Minerva Cruz, and Ms. Meredith Kramer at Washington campus. Please accept a heartfelt thank you, and we have a small video on behalf of the different departments across the district to say thank you.
Mother Teresa said, everyone can rise above their circumstances and achieve success if they are dedicated and passionate about what they do.
We wanted to say thank you on behalf of the Division of School Leadership and Development to the most dedicated principals. All that you've done, and rise up, keep going.
Thank you.
Hi, principals. From the Division of Operations, we want to say thank you for all your hard work for our students and their families during this time. Remote instruction has been very challenging, and you all have risen to the occasion. And we also look forward to the continued planning efforts for the return to hybrid instruction. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your work.
Hi, I'm Carolina. And together, we are the face department.
We know it's been a challenging year.
But we would like to thank you for good job.
Where's my wallet? Okay, Shani, I'm trying to multitask. It's my problem.
I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for your hard work, commitment, and dedication to the students of Waukegan Public Schools. This has been a very tumultuous year, and you all have stayed the course and given your all to our students. So from me to you, thank you.
On behalf of the Office of the General Counsel,
thank you for all of your dedication, your patience, your determination, and your goodwill for our students and our teachers and our families.
Please know your hard work has not gone unnoticed.
We appreciate your continuous commitment to our students and families.
We're grateful for all you do.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, fabulous, talented, committed, dedicated, and exhausted WPS 60 principals and assistant principals. This is Stacy Strategakis. I just wanted to send love and peace and zen and laughter from my house to yours. Take a moment with the pugs. You can't look at 3 pugs and not laugh and lighten the mood. Thank you for all that you do. There are no words to express your dedication and commitment. Namaste.
Good evening, building administrators. At this time, we, the MTSS team, would like to thank each and every one of you. Your service and dedication to both students and staff has been nothing short of amazing. As you keep going above and beyond, know that the MTSS team is here to support you in any way we can. Again, thank you. #virtualhugs.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
#60pride, #go Bulldogs.
Greetings, principals. I just wanted to take a moment, along with the team here, to thank you for all of your hard work. Without you and without your support, our students, our parents, our families would not be able to have what they need during remote instruction and during this pandemic. It has not been easy. You have had to shoulder a lot of burden, and we know that there's more to come, but we know that you're capable, and we want you to know that we are truly appreciative of your leadership, your passion, and your dedication to the students and the families of Waukegan Public Schools. So I'm going to turn it over to my team so that they can also say thank you. And I want to let you know that I thank you so very much. Okay, team.
Thank you for all your hard work in supporting our students. Without you, we can't implement any of the things that we're trying to do. Good job.
Thank you for all your hard work, and thanks for all of us working together as a team. We appreciate every single one of you, so thank you.
Thank you, principals and assistant principals, for keeping your families and your students first, and for taking such good care of your teachers through this whole past year. Thanks so much.
Thank you, principals, for your awesome dedication and passion for the work that you do for the students and families of Waukegan. We appreciate you, and you have been amazing through this work. Stay strong.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Kevin Brown,
Director of Teaching and Learning, Pre-K through 8. I take this opportunity from the Department of Teaching and Learning to say to the administrators, thank you. Thank you for a wonderful job that you have done to ensure that the students of Waukegan Public School are speaking learning. Your work do not go unnoticed. Again, thank you from the Department of Teaching and Learning. Robert Boston, Matt Alston, Krisha Rasul, Kyoko Porter, we all thank you.
Again, if the principals and assistant principals are on the call and can turn their camera on and wave real quick, it's always wonderful to see your faces. And so if you are on, if you want to turn your cameras on for a minute, we all would love to see you.
Hello, principals of Waukegan School District. You all are very valuable. Thank you for all you do. Nicole, you had an awesome Black History website. I love it.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. That was a team effort.
It was very good. I enjoyed it. I'm still going through it. Very good information for the students.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hannah. I appreciate it.
Again, thank you, Superintendent and members of the board, for allowing us to present this evening. We appreciate the time. And again, thank you to our school leaders. Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Schools of the state of Illinois and the nation.
All right, it was great to see all of our school leaders. Thank you guys for joining the meeting and for all the work that you've been doing during the pandemic. And so we appreciate you. Any board members want to comment or say anything else? Thank you so much for attending, and as I mentioned, for your work. We know that it's not easy, and your teams are working together. And now with the eventual return to school, we know what that means to you and to your families and for your students. And so thank you. All right, we are now at 7A, approval of the minutes of the open session meeting of January 26, 2021.
Mr. Riddle here, I so move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Motion by Mr. Riddle.
Second.
Second by Ms. Wozniak. Any comments or questions on the motion or corrections to the minutes? I'm sorry.
Board President?
Yes.
Leguizamo, I sent a question to the legal counsel in regards to the clarification that's used at the heading of the minutes. Just wanted to see if legal counsel had the chance to weigh in on that. And that is the use of the term remotely versus virtually.
This is Kathy Vanderbrook. I have not seen that inquiry come in. I will look at that and get back to you as soon as possible. Don't know if Mr. Morris is on the line and if he may have responded.
I didn't see it either. Don't recall getting it, so.
That's fine. I mean, I just think as we're continuing to do these minutes, and it does say in the header that we are convening remotely, and sometimes some people may construe the term remotely in the future may construe the term remotely as like a different location versus virtually. So I was just wondering if you had any feedback as to how we'd like to make sure that those minutes are consistent across the board on that terminology. That's all.
Are we okay with voting tonight, or would you rather we held it over, Ms. Leguizamo?
No, we can go ahead and vote for it. That's fine.
All right, so we got a motion and a second. Legal has that question, and so they'll seek clarification. But if we can have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride? Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Mr. Castellanos, Mr. Ewing.
Yes. All right, we have now come to what I consider to be one of the most important times of our meetings, and that is the opportunity for public comment. During this time, this is the opportunity for the public to address the board. This is a one-way push of information, meaning that those who are speaking will be able to address the board, but there will not be a response for those who might not come often. Sometimes we do address them later in the meetings, and you may be referred out if there's further information or follow-up that is needed. I will let the public as well as the board know is as of right now, we have about 50 minutes, a little over 50 minutes of public comment, right? If we're taking our 3 minutes, we have over 16 individuals who've signed up. So I'm going to ask that the speakers please stay within your time limit. I will end it at exactly 3 minutes. I will also ask that, I'm going to call your name. I'm going to give you an opportunity to get unmuted. But if you are not on the line or cannot get unmuted, you do have the option to email me your remarks. But typically we try and circle back to make sure that everybody is heard. We want to hear from everybody, but just want to remind you, we have about just under an hour worth of public comments, which will really delay the rest of the meeting, which is worth it, in my opinion, as this is the time that you, the public, has. If you need translation services will be provided to you, and that will give you 6 minutes on the clock to allow for translation. We do ask that you refrain from mentioning employee or student names in your remarks. With that, Ms. Alajakis, do you have the sign-up sheet?
Evening, Board President. The first name tonight is Larry McShane.
Mr. McShane, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can. So I'm going to mute myself, and your time will begin whenever you start speaking.
Okay, so let's begin it right now, and I'll try to make it fast. Okay, very good. So yeah, I'm coming tonight before all of you. I'm honored to do so regarding the renaming of Waukegan Public Schools, particularly Thomas Jefferson Junior High and Daniel Webster Junior High. Real quick, I just want to point out to you that, and I don't think it's been discussed too much here in all this, that there's too much to go over with all this, but Jefferson was a founding father of the United States. He was the principal author of the Declaration of Independence. He was a mentor to James Madison. He was inspirational to the U.S. Constitutions being written. Jefferson insisted that a Bill of Rights be put in there. Without Jefferson, we'd have no Bill of Rights. He was the third president of the United States. Daniel Webster is recognized as an outstanding congressman, senator, secretary of state, orator, a legendary American lawyer, and he was a staunch advocate of education for everyone, for all the people, for we the people. So, having said this, were these men perfect? No, they weren't perfect. And they were products of their time. We must be mindful of this. But beyond that, they went beyond their time. They transcended their time. And that's what makes them so significant to free persons everywhere on the face of this earth. So, if we didn't have a Webster or a Jefferson, if we didn't have a Jefferson, would we even have the United States of America? Would it even exist? So having said all that, my bottom line is, why are we removing the names of these stellar individuals from our public schools? And I have a lot to say here, but to me, by doing so, it says like it gives a suggestion that we're ashamed of them. We don't want to recognize them anymore. They're irrelevant. This sort of thing. And with all due respect to all of you, to me, it's just a symptom. It's a symptom, a serious symptom of cancel culture. And this board took a swift 7-0 vote back some time ago. There were petitions involved somewhere along the line. But I will say this, there was no public hearing that I'm aware of. There was no prolonged public period, no public comment of any sort offered. This city, and there were petitions, but this city has 87,000 individuals, residents in it, the 9th largest city in Illinois. And I think that we, the people, should have been heard from more than these petition signers. I talk to persons all over this city. I read the Lake County Chicago Tribune, Talk of the County. There's comments there all the time about this school board taking this action to remove these distinguished individuals from our public schools. And you know, this is going to cost $120,000 in signage changes by your own estimates. So, you know, I will say this real quick, that song from long ago that Sam Cooke began, I don't know much about history, applies in this case. And I really have to ask what's going on here. We the people seek to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McShane. Ms. Alajakis, next name on the list, please.
The next name on the list is simply listed as Brittany.
Brittany, who signed up for public comment. Are you on the line, Brittany? Brittany, once again, Brittany, are you on the line? Please unmute yourself or make it known in the chat. Final call for Brittany. Brittany. All right, Mr. Alajakis, next name on the list.
The next name is Samantha Horwitz.
Ms. Horwitz, are you on the line? And just to confirm, Ms. Alajakis, this also wasn't the person who submitted their comments in writing?
That is correct. I have 4 individuals that submitted comments in writing. One of them, Samantha, is not one of them.
Samantha Horwitz, once again, Horwitz. Please unmute yourself and identify yourself in the chat. Samantha Horwitz. All right, Samantha and Brittany, if you guys want to make yourselves known. Ms. Alajakis, next name on the list.
Next name this evening is Janine Woodman.
Janine Woodman, are you on the line?
Yes, I am here.
Perfect. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Woodman, your time will begin.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank the school board and administration for their outstanding efforts to keep our community safe and for the support to make remote learning so successful. With the possible transition to hybrid rooming, is there any data that shows that the hybrid model of instruction is a more effective model than remote learning? In my own experiences with hybrid, I found that the hybrid model does not have the same benefits as regular in-person instruction or even remote instruction, such as small groups, student socialization, and one-on-one instruction, and the building of teacher and student relationships. And while it may not look the same, many of these instructional strategies are already in place with remote instruction through the ingenuity and dedication of our teachers and administration. This is the time for Waukegan to be a leader in education and provide the best instructional practices and not just go with the popular option. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Alajakis?
The next name this evening is Elizabeth Knapp. And I believe Ms. Knapp did submit her comments in writing as well if she's not on the line.
Ms. Knapp, are you there? All right, Ms. Alajakis, if you would be so kind as to read those comments, and your time will begin as soon as you start speaking.
Board President Ewing, District 60 board members, and Ms. Placencia. First and foremost, I would like to thank you for your commitment to the safety and well-being of all WPS 60 stakeholders. So far in these trying times, you have chosen to put safety first, and that is greatly appreciated. I have been proud of the way the district has handled the situation, and I think we have served our community and students well. Thank you for your leadership through all of this. I am concerned, however, with the potential return date for staff as outlined in the superintendent's statement. Asking staff to return to buildings on March 15th does not offer ample time for the majority of us to gain immunity from the vaccines the district worked so hard for us to receive. Pushing back the potential return date until after spring break or ensuring our professional development would be virtual and not asking staff back into the buildings would allow 2 more weeks to pass. By that time, so many more of us will have had a chance to receive their second doses and wait the time after the shot for full immunity to occur. Both vaccines require at least 14 days after the second dose is given in order to reach full efficacy per CDC recommendations. The district has placed safety first throughout this process. I implore you to continue to do so. Similarly, I am concerned with proper ventilation at the buildings. Our buildings are old and the HVAC systems can't possibly provide clean air as recommended by the CDC. Again, waiting a few weeks until at least March 29th to begin the week of professional development and April 5 to begin hybrid return would allow for warmer temperatures and the possibility of fresh air in many of our classrooms and offices, thus ensuring safer facilities. Please know that I'm excited to work in the buildings, and I want to do it the same way we have done everything so far, with safety and in the best interest of all stakeholders. I truly think by simply waiting at least a week after spring break to begin the hybrid plan, our schools will be better and stronger because of it. Neither of these considerations would change much in terms of the logistics of the hybrid plan, but they would potentially greatly increase the safety of staff and students. Our staff will remain safe, our students will be safer, our community will be safer. Lastly, I empathize with your position in all of this. I truly do. I have friends and family members in school leadership positions. I have witnessed the stress and anxiety the situation has taken on them firsthand. It has been extremely challenging and very difficult to say the least. I do not envy the decisions you have to make and the situations you are in. I am very grateful, though, that as a district, we have truly put safety first. Please, please continue to do so. Thank you for your time and consideration. Elizabeth Knapp.
Thank you for those remarks. If you'll be so kind as to, what is the next name on the list?
The next name on the list is Chelsea, and I believe it's pronounced Chorsch is the last name. And Chelsea also submitted comments in writing if she is not available.
Chelsea Chorsch, are you on the line? And forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, but Chelsea, if you signed up for public comment. All right, Mr. Alajakis, if you're ready, if you want to read that comment.
Certainly, sorry, I had to get a drink of water there. Good evening. I would like to thank our superintendent and our board for making the safety of our staff and students their #1 priority this school year. I am writing as a special education teacher who is in her 11th year in the district. I am a teacher within the low incidence program. With the year beginning on many challenges for staff, students, and families, the students within my program have truly shown many strengths and have adapted to the remote learning environment. At the beginning of the school year, many modifications and accommodations were made to help facilitate learning, stability, and structure within our classrooms. Teachers work directly with parents daily to support them with the virtual learning platform. Many parents have expressed how well they feel the school year has gone despite the challenges we have all faced. When looking at how this school year has developed and progressed, and then looking at potential hybrid plan, many concerns have been identified. Asking students and their parents to once again adapt to a new schedule at this time in the school year is asking a great deal, not only for our low incidence programs, but for all students and families. Parents and teachers have worked tirelessly together to build schedules, visual and tactile, as well as built-in independent learning time with their teachers and paraprofessionals. I believe our students will not adjust well to the change to the hybrid learning schedule, and I feel we will lose a great deal of progress we have made. Not only will this change in a schedule affect the students coming into the buildings, but students who choose to stay remote will need to learn the hybrid schedule in order to continue successfully. Therefore, parents will need to adjust their current plans, which is not ideal for all involved. While this change in schedule will cause an immense disruption in our students' learning, there are a number of additional concerns that need to be looked at closely. Teachers, paraprofessionals, and students within the low incidence classrooms are at a much higher risk if brought back to the schools. Daily hygiene routines are taught weekly, and students need continued and repetitive prompting and redirecting for hand washing, sneezing, coughing, and other bodily functions. These skills are a constant goal of our program yearly. Enforcing mask wearing, social distancing, and continued awareness for making healthy and safe decisions is a very difficult task for our population of students. Staff and families have shown concern in many ways due to these reasons. I ask that you please continue to look at all outcomes for all populations of students, and please continue to keep safety and the health Safety and health is your number one concern. Many teachers are still pursuing vaccinations in order to instill some reassurance about returning to the buildings. I believe that continuing remotely for the remainder of the school year is truly the most logical decision for all when it comes to safety, health, and education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alajakis. Next name on the list, please.
The next name on the list is Caitlin Williams.
Caitlin, are you on the line? Caitlin Williams, are you on the line? Please unmute yourself and make yourself known in the chat. Mr. Alajakis, did Caitlin provide you with her remarks?
I did not receive written remarks from Caitlin.
All right, Caitlin Williams, if you're on the line, please identify yourselves in the chat. If you do so before public comment ends, I will be sure to come back. Mr. Alajakis, next name on the list.
The next name this evening is Lauren Pagilai, and I probably get that last name wrong.
Lauren, are you on the line? Lauren, I don't know if you unmuted yourself. So one more time, Lauren, please, yeah, Paglia, I think was the last name. All right, Mr. Alajakis, next name on the list.
The next name this evening is Victor Chang, and Victor did submit his comments in writing.
Mr. Chang, did you want us to read them, or I see you on the line?
I'll read them.
Okay. If you're ready, Mr. Chang, your time will start.
Welcome to my classroom. Dear Superintendent Placencia and school board members, thank you so much for your hard work and commitment to educating our Waukegan community amongst these very exceptional circumstances. In brief, I have several concerns about the high school hybrid schedule. Having served on the recommendation committee for the current high school remote learning schedule, we knew that our students would thrive best if the schedule was simple and consistent. That's why we chose a schedule of the same class order every day for 30 minutes each. Students have no excuse for missing classes. There are no changes. However, the hybrid high school schedule proposed in January looks both complicated and confusing. Each week, the students will have to adapt to 3 different schedules and remember which day they have in-person instruction. My fear is that our absence rate will skyrocket. Also, I'm concerned that 41 minutes is a little too short to leave school, ride the bus, arrive home, and start remote learning. It's like bell to bell, 41 minutes. Not to mention the students who have both first and sixth period have an impossible 6 minutes to travel home. And a lot of our first period students are our JROTC students. An additional minor confusion may be that hybrid classes are actually 4 minutes longer than our previous non-COVID schedule. Normally our class periods are 47 minutes according to the new schedule, and I'm assuming that's because of the 4 hours that we want on in-person time, but it's 4 minutes longer. I appreciate the work that's been done, and I know that it's not easy. I also appreciate this opportunity to air my concerns before the board. Thank you so much for your time and service.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Mr. Alajakis, do you have the next name on the list?
The next name this evening is Jay Schwartz.
Jay, are you on the line? Jay Schwartz. Jay Schwartz, are you on the line? Schwartz. Ms. Al Jackson, or did Jay Schwartz submit their comments in writing?
No, he did not.
Okay. Next name, Mr. Schwartz, if you are on the line, please make your presence known. Mr. Al Jackson, next name on the list.
The next name this evening is Michelle Halou.
Michelle, are you on the line? Michelle, and can you spell the last name, Mr. Al Jackson?
The last name is Tolub.
All right. Last call for Michelle Palou. All right, Michelle, if you're having technical difficulties, please make yourself known prior to the end of public comment time. All right, Ms. Al Jackson, next name on the list.
The next name on our list this evening is Amy Grost, and Amy did submit comments in writing.
Amy Grost, are you on the line? All right, go ahead and read those comments, Mr. Al Jackson.
Absolutely. It is with my whole heart that I would love to be back in person with students. As a first-year social worker, it would truly be the greatest gift to support my students in the school building. However, I feel it would be haphazard and dangerous to go back before our school staff are fully immunized and protected with antibodies. According to the Ohio State Medical Center, it takes 2 weeks after the second dose to reach full protection. To ensure the continued safety of everyone in our Waukegan School District community, we need to continue with remote learning past March 15th for staff and March 29th for students. Personally, I was just able to receive my first Moderna dose and will not receive my second until at least March 19th. Therefore, the vaccine will not be fully effective in my body until at least April 2nd. I know I am not the only staff member to receive their first dose later than others. I appreciate all the efforts of the superintendent and the board have made to have options available for our staff. Unfortunately, though, there are other staff members that still need to be vaccinated. We have been in this pandemic for almost a year. Please allow all your teachers, support staff, paraprofessionals, maintenance, custodial, and all other amazing members of our Waukegan School District staff to reach full immunity. To ensure all staff who would like to receive their vaccine reaches the full efficacy of both doses, I believe it would be crucial to launch a survey to staff members asking what the approximate date of their second dose will be to calculate the last date of full efficacy. By gathering this data, we further ensure the safety of all, our staff, students, their families, and our families. I also would like to speak to the disruption moving to hybrid learning would have on our students, especially our students in the diverse learners department. Many of our students thrive on routine, and I feel continuing remote learning is the most prudent option to ensure routine and stability. In a world where life is anything but stable due to COVID, we have been the constant in our students' lives. They rely on us to ensure safety and consistency. By moving to the hybrid model presented, the schedules of all our students would change. We would be disrupting the stability we have been offering our students. The last point I would like to speak upon is a critical safety concern. Under the hybrid model plan, the school district would be giving each student and staff member only one reusable mask each. This is not enough, especially in a time when new variants are rapidly growing and the guidance of mask efficacy constantly changes. The masks the district currently have were bought near the beginning of the pandemic when guidance was minimal. During last week's operation meeting, Mr. Moten mentioned that the district is looking at the efficacy of the current masks we have in our possession and are looking at buying additional masks. At the meeting, he could not say with certainty how many layers.
Appreciate that.
I'll be sure to email the board these remarks so that they have them in full.
Thank you. And I have, and I hate that I'm mispronouncing the last name, but I did see Lauren put her comments in the chat since she wasn't able to get off mute. So I'm going to go back there, and when I start speaking, if you would Start the time. Hi, Brendan. I want to write to you to express my concern about returning to the building in March. I, like many other teachers, have already received the Moderna vaccine on February 12th. I will not be eligible to receive the second shot until March 12th. The effectiveness of the vaccine will not protect me from getting the virus by March 15th. Please wait till at least April, when the majority of staff will have received both vaccines. Hopefully by April, a large portion of our community will have been able to receive the vaccine. Please continue to think about the staff and the community. We are one of the few districts which haven't negatively contributed to this pandemic. I have faith that you will continue to protect our community from this pandemic. And I see someone who has, if we can stop the clock now and reset. I do see someone who has the acronyms of MST, who said they were called earlier. So if you would unmute yourself if
Hello.
you can. No? All right. And then if you would state your name for the record.
Absolutely. My name is Michelle Tolub. I am a teacher at Andrew Cook Magnet School.
All right, Michelle. Ms. Tolub, if you would be, whenever you're ready, your time will start.
Thank you so very much. I am also reiterating exactly what the other teachers have been saying. We have been a very cautious district in opening up our schools, and I do feel that at this point in time, being able to open safely is not exactly correct at the March 29th date. We were told that we didn't open in January and we wanted to wait till January 19th because of waiting for the time amount after winter break. Well, at this point in time, we should be doing the same for spring break. I already know of a plethora of students who are going to different places over spring break, and that can cause other issues in our schools. I also am concerned because I am in a departmentalized grade, which means that I am moving from classroom to classroom at a school which we have been told is having one of the greatest amount of students back in classrooms. I just would like to plead with the board to understand that your teachers are scared and your teachers want to be there for your children. I'm a resident of Waukegan. I see what people are and are not doing within the community. And I personally still do not feel safe. I want to thank you for your time.
All right, thank you for those comments, Ms. Tolub. Mr. Alajakis, if we can get back on the list and resume where we left off, please.
The next name this evening is Nilza Martinez.
One more time.
It's Nilza Martinez.
Nelza.
N-I-L-Z-A.
Nelza, are you on the line? And I want to pause to make sure that they're not on the.
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. Whenever you're ready, your time will start.
I'm sorry, my time will start for what?
Did you signed up to speak for public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was just online because we were presenting for Dr. Hillary from the McKinney-Vento program.
Gotcha. So that was the name on the sign-up sheet. So you are presenting later.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem. Mr. Alajakis, the next name on the list.
The next name is actually Mr. McShane, who has already spoken. And after that, it takes us to, that completes our list. We had Ms. Martinez signed up multiple times. And so that completes the names I have on my list.
All right. Well, thank you for those comments and for those concerns and for bringing them forward to the Board of Education. restated and superintendent has restated that this is the most important work that we have, and we hear you, and we'll be taking everything that was said into consideration whenever we do return to a hybrid model. With that, if we can continue with our meeting, which is the consent agenda. We do have the consent agenda, which has been done. It was actually, and I'm sorry, so to the public, full disclosure, and I know my teachers will appreciate this, I'm juggling different electronic things right now. So I'm trying to switch computers before my laptop dies because I don't have a charger. So if you guys are seeing me move around, that is what is happening right now. So please bear with me. But right now we have our consent agenda. And Mr. Riddle, just be prepared. If I go down, it'll be temporary, but please keep the meeting moving. Our consent agenda was a practice that was put in place by previous board president, Mike Rodriguez. It was done after some workshops that we did, which dealt with how to efficiently run meetings. The consent agenda is not done to hide information or do anything nefarious. They're usually items that have been previously discussed or should be considered non-controversial. This is done where we take and approve all the items in one single vote. There's a narrative attached to each item as well as supporting documents for anybody who can go and review at their own leisure. And any board member can request that any item be held over for any reason. With that, board members, you have the consent agenda, which has been presented for review. Are there any items that you would like to have held over or voted on separately?
Mr. President, I just have a question. If we are getting a presentation on the McKinney-Vento program, then why are we voting on it first?
Well, the presentation from McKinney-Vento, I believe, was an update. This is just for online essential staff training. So we can vote on it separately if you like, but based on the narrative and what I read, I would be fine with supporting this.
I don't have any problem supporting it. It was just a question. All righty, thank you.
Mr. Riddle, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented here under item 9, A through F.
Motion by Mr. Riddle.
Second by Ms. Wozniak.
Second by Ms. Wozniak. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Board President, I have comment, or actually, yeah, I guess it's a comment. It's related to B, the approval of 3 years school calendar revision.
Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
So I sent this question to the team here, the superintendent. The superintendent provided a response in regards to my question, but I'd like to understand from a board perspective if we'd like to have consensus on this. But one of my suggestions for the calendar is to make a reference in the notations of the holiday section, which is usually page 2, for those holidays that we recognize. So for example, and it is for those holidays that we recognize that fall on the weekend. So for example, Juneteenth on calendar 2020 to 2021 and 2021 to 2022 is not visible on that calendar, but we had just passed a resolution to acknowledge that holiday as a special holiday. It is on the 3rd year, and that's when we start seeing it. However, because it falls on the weekend, we're not seeing it or notated anywhere. So I was wondering if the board would feel or would like to have the notations of these holidays noted on the 2nd page. Another example is like 4th of July, right? It could also fall on a weekend. This is something to say that we do acknowledge these holidays, but it's not visible in the actual page 1. Wanted to get your understanding, your consensus as a board on that.
So if that's the case, I'm going to ask Mr. Riddle and Ms. Wozniak to remove their motions in their second. We'll vote on all the items with the exception of item B, and then we can entertain your request, Ms. Leguizamo.
Fine with me. So I amend my motion to all of the consent items except B, which we'll do separately.
And I amend my second.
All right. If there are no further comments or questions, roll call vote, please.
Wait. Not yet. Just a question. There are two items on our agenda, and I would truly like to understand both of them. Well, not both of them. I understand the everything that's on here, but I just want to know the other item I'm concerned about or inquiring about is under purchasing and contracts on A. We haven't gotten there yet, but that's the one where we're buying masks and stuff too. And I'm just wondering, why are we buying masks in two different items? Two different agenda.
Anything on the consent agenda, or you want to wait and bring that up when we get there, Ms. Hannah?
Well, it's in conjunction because we have one item on here about the
So you got 9A, which is the approval of district-wide masks. So
yes.
I guess the question would be to Deputy Moulton or Superintendent, you directed to who you like to answer. Why are we not combining items 9A and 10A?
Ms. Vanderbrook, would you like to take this, or do you want me to turn it over to Mr. Moulton? I know he said you would speak on one, but
I do not know the nature of the masks on the consent agenda. I am aware that the nature of masks under the purchase and contract are, higher level masks for our high risk areas, the KN95. But I'm not aware of what the consent agenda masks are.
Mr. President, I think that item A, those masks were already ordered. This is retroactively. Mr. Moulton may clarify that, but we talked about this at a board meeting previously. These were already ordered.
Yeah, I understand that, Mr. Riddle. But my question is, why are we not doing them together? I mean, I'm not a proponent of retroactive approval, but we are ordering. So I guess to simplify my question is, why did we end up having to buy more masks?
Mr. Moulton?
Yes, Superintendent, good evening, board members and community members, fellow colleagues. So we did present item 9A, the district-wide mask purchase at the OSC meeting last week. This masks were purchased at a time where we did not determine when we were going to return to school. They were purchased very early in the school year for student use. We did bring the information forward at the time as information, but we did not request approval. Item 10A is additional personal protective equipment that came forward after the meeting last week, and it's more detailed as it relates to certain staff and student populations when we returned in-person instruction.
Okay.
Are there any further questions on the consent agenda? And just for clarity in the minutes and those who are watching and participating, we're voting on items 9A, C, D, E, and F. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride? Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Mr. Castellanos,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes, item approved, consent agenda approved, all items carry. We have approval of the district-wide mass purchase, 9C, approval of the Amendment 14 of General Council's Agreement, 9D, additional 125 Wi-Fi internet hotspots for WPS 60 students, 9E, approval of professional development coordinator position, and 9F, approval of McKinney-Vento online essential staff training. We're now going to go back to 9B, approval of the 3-year school calendar revisions 2020, 2021, 2021, 2022, 2027 through 2023. I'll read the recommended action. It is a recommendation that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to approve the revisions to FY 21, FY 22, and FY 23 school calendars. The revisions include changing the name of Columbus Day to Indigenous People and Immigrants Day, as well as the addition of Juneteenth as a holiday. The calendar committee met on February 10th, 2021. Oh, sorry. So that was the recommended action. Ms. Leguizamo is, let's go ahead and do we have a motion?
So moved, Leguizamo.
Do we have a second? Second by Morito. Just for clarification for the community as well as the board, in order for us to even discuss the item, we have to have a second and a motion. So now we have our second and our first and our second, and now we can have conversation about the motion and the request. So go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
Yes, and especially as we just passed the resolutions to acknowledge Juneteenth and change Columbus Day to Indigenous Day, I really do feel that we should try to have these as much as possible on our approved calendars, even if they're on the weekends. So I gave an example earlier in regards to Juneteenth falling on the weekend for the first 2 calendar years that we're looking to approve. In 2022 school year, 4th of July falls over the weekend. So I just like to make an acknowledgement on the second page, just to make a notation that we do observe those holidays, and that's what the request would be.
And Ms. Vanderbroek, is there any, I know this was decided between the calendar committee, because these are just slight revisions, we would be fine to make that motion and entertain those small changes that actually don't substantially change the school calendar.
I believe that would be fine, yes.
All right, so I'm going to ask, I guess the official motion would be to approve the school calendar revisions for 2020, 2021, or to, I guess, help me with the motion, Kathy. Would it be to approve the calendars with the revisions for, as presented by Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes, for a notation to recognize the Juneteenth, and was it the Indigenous people that also fell on a weekend?
She says all holidays that fall on the weekend. So just to a revision to acknowledge all holidays celebrated by the district on page 2. All right, so Mr. Riddle, would you amend your motion?
It's actually Ms. Leguizamo's motion, it's my second, but I'll amend my second if she'll amend her motion.
Yes, I do amend the motion with the revision.
Any other comments or questions from any other board members related to item 9B? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. McBride, Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Mr. Castellanos,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes, item approved, motion carries. All right, we're going to go down to 10A, purchasing contracts, approval of the emergency authorization to purchase personal protective equipment.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the emergency purchase of personal protective equipment from Sowell Dental Associates located at 1122 North Clark Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60610.
Mr. Riddle here, I so move that we approve the motion as recommended by the superintendent.
Motion by Mr. Riddle,
Second,
second by Ms. Wozniak. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Yeah, is this the same company that we previously purchased the mask from? Or is it a separate company?
Are you referring to the masks in the consent agenda?
Yes, that and this one that we are voting on.
This
Are
is
they
a this is a separate company.
And I know the board received information, but Ms. Vanderbroek, for transparency, why would this count as an emergency?
Sure. This is a purchase that we were holding on making until we knew more likely when we would be coming back. The nature of the PPE is at a level to protect our staff working with our high-risk kids or in high-volume areas such as screening. When we look at what constitutes an emergency, when we look at timing, if we were to take this purchase out to bid, we were not able to get the material in. We know that both at the state and federal level, it has been recognized that COVID and the need to get kids back to in-person school constitutes an emergency situation. And so we also know that this board has recognized that getting in place health and safety items in a way that will be in place before staff and students come into the buildings is critical to ensuring that we can meet that emergency of getting kids back into school and start to address the loss of learning.
And I know this was a question that Ms. Leguizamo, do you want to ask maybe for the public some of the questions that you had? Because I'm sure there's some that the community would be interested in.
Yeah, I did. There was, one of the questions that was asked here was, what was the need? Because there's a need here or a request for foot coverings and head coverings. And that's not a usual request seen or anything that's usually seen in a school setting. And so that was the question around that. And the thought behind it is that because this purchase is usually used for, or not usually, but will be used for diverse learners, there are some instances where children might use like spit or any other bodily functions, and so this would help to protect our teachers, our staff, paraprofessionals in relations to just having more personal protection equipment. So there's a lot that goes along with that, but that was some two main questions. The other thing was, and it's unusual for a school to probably purchase these products from a dental facility located in Chicago. And I would have assumed a manufacturer. We would have probably purchased somewhere from a manufacturer. But we have worked with this company before, and it is, these items are harder to find. And so these associates are so well, dental associates, will be our liaison in obtaining this vast amount of quantity. So those were the questions that were revolved around that was sent out for this portion of it. I don't know if the deputy superintendent wanted to talk a little bit more around that.
Mr. Moulton, did you have anything to add?
Thank you, Superintendent and Ms. Leguizamo. No, you mentioned and discussed some of the concerns brought forward very well, and I do just want to reiterate when we first started in the pandemic and we had our nursing staff doing screening of staff coming to the building, we were looking at a heightened level of personal protective equipment because there were more unknowns about the the coronavirus than there are today. However, similar to us continuing remote learning as we have been, we also wanted to ensure that staff that were put in the situations where they were seeing multiple students, or again, you mentioned working with the diverse learners population, they had all the resources available to them for when we returned in-person instruction. And this particular vendor rose to the occasion back in April and May, and they're doing so again based on the quantity and the quality of materials that we are requesting. Thank you.
All right, with that, are there any other comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Mr. Castellanos,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes, motion approved, item carries. All right, we are now at 11A, personnel for 2/23/2021.
It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the administration's recommendation to approve the appointments, accept the retirements, retirement extensions, and resignations as found on schedules F952, L899, and G610.
Mr. Riddle, I make a motion, we approve the action recommended by the superintendent.
Motion by Mr. Riddle,
So move, Leguizamo.
second by Ms. Leguizamo. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Mr. Castellanos,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes, item approved, motion carries. We are now at grants and donations. There are none. Other, there are none. Financial
Board
reports.
President?
Yes.
Sorry, did we needed to
Yes.
acknowledge? There you go.
No, you're 100% right. Superintendent, do we have a PowerPoint?
She's frozen. Oh.
Sorry, I was having a hard time getting my microphone off of mute. What is the question? Please restate.
I know we had some administrators. Did you have a slide to recognize those individuals?
Mr. Alajakis?
I'm sorry, good evening. We create PowerPoints to introduce our new staff members when they're new hires. Reclassifications don't generally we don't generally have the same slide, but you guys are obviously welcome to welcome Miss Sandy Johnson in her new official capacity.
Yay.
And so Ms. Johnson has been interim of our Clearview Elementary School. She precedes Mr. Dan Hill, and so we're excited to have her as a part of the Waukegan team, and she will now be the permanent principal of Clearview. So thank you, Ms. Johnson. Continue the great work that you're doing and the work that has been started at Clearview. So we appreciate you, and like I said, we won't welcome you to the district. You've been here for a little bit, but we congratulate you in your continued endeavors. All right, we are now going to move on to 12A. No grants and donations, 13A none. So 14A, ratification of the second processing of board bills for February 2021, annual check request payments and First Midwest insurance payments for the period of February 3rd, 2021 to February 16th, 2021.
It is recommended that the Board of Education ratify the second February 2021 processing of board bills, manual check request payments for the First Midwest insurance payments for the period of February 3rd, 2021 through February 16, 2021. The accounts payable board February 3rd, 2021 through February 16, 2021. Payments total $911,322.39.
The manual check request payments for the period of February 3rd, 2021 through February 16th, 2021 total $694,806.36. The First Midwest insurance payments for the period of February 3rd, 2021 through February 16th, 2021 payments total $0.
Mr. Riddle, I so move that we approve the report as the motion. I make a motion that we approve the financial reports as stated.
Second,
Motion by Mr.
Leguizamo.
Riddle, second by Ms. Leguizamo. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call vote.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Mr. Castellanos, Mr. Ewing.
Yes, Ms. Castellanos did have to exit the meeting at 8:36 for the record. Item approved, motion carries. So under committee reports, I do, I guess, well, Ms. Hannah, no, I mean, Ms. Leguizamo, it actually would be appropriate for you. Ms. McBride, I don't believe is on the line. And Ms. Hannah actually did step down because she was one of those who received nominations. She actually received a total of 21 nominations. And so during the deliberation, because she was the assigned board member, she did decide to step down to allow it to be debated. So Ms. Leguizamo replaced her on the Webster Committee. And so I don't know if you want to just very briefly speak to the work of the renaming committee.
Yeah, thank you, Board President. So we met last week and dwindled down the names to 6 names. So we are at that stage. Now, what will happen is those 6 names will be presented to the Webster family. That is teachers, staff, principal, families, students, and they will then in turn vote for their top 3, and which will be presented to the board at a later date. But that's where we are. So there was a lot of names. I believe it was mentioned up to 300 names amongst the 2 different buildings. So a lot of local heroes is on the top 6 names. And there are a few names that are not local. So that was some variety that is going to be presented to the students or to the voting parties there. So really glad for the work, or excited that all the work that the committee members did. And thank you, Ms. Hannah, for starting that all off. I'm pretty sure it was great discussions. It was a lot of good dialogue on a lot of great people.
Thank you, Ms. Leguizamo, for that update. Also want to pull up, before I go, are there any, Mr. Riddle, were you going to speak on the Capital Improvement Committee?
I was just going to briefly speak on that. You want me to do that?
I actually have a PowerPoint, so I'll let you go first, and then I will review the PowerPoint.
Okay,
just a little bit more.
Very quickly then. I'm sure your PowerPoint explains it better, but Mr. Ewing and myself attended Capital Improvement Committee meetings on February the 10th and the 18th. And Mr. Moten and his team presented, as you will see, a recap of the projects that they completed last year, or those that were almost in completion. And you'll be glad to know they stayed under budget. They spent $12.9 million, and we had authorized 13, so that was good. They then projected or presented to the committee the projects that they are planning for next year. We were asked to help them prioritize the new projects, and they will be presenting that to the board soon, so that they can get some of those projects out to bid. One of the big concerns that was expressed by some of us was, did that include something to redo our bathrooms? Because that's something that has been brought forward to our board many times by students. And Mr. Moten was pleased to tell us that the district has won a grant for $1 million to redo our bathrooms. So that is one of the things that is going to get a rehab this next year. So we were very pleased about that. There was some talk about, well, I guess Mr. Ewing's thing will go in here, as he's probably going to talk about how projects are going to be prioritized for this next year. So anyway, we were glad to be part of that committee. They've done an awful lot of work that Mr. Moten and his team have been. I mentioned that they took advantage of the fact that COVID was in and very few people were in the schools, so it enabled them to get a lot of work done during this past year. They're not too sure what the future might bring as we return to school, and the ability to get projects done even during the summer. It depends on what our summer school looks like. But anyway, go ahead, Mr. Ewing, present what you have.
Okay, I was just going to ask the question, Mr. Riddle. Did those bathrooms include the boys' bathrooms?
According to Mr. Moten, they showed us what they had done in the girls' bathroom. That was a real problem last year. Has been a problem for many years at Waukegan campus. They really had to tear everything out of the bathroom, including the floor. So they did a marvelous job in that particular bathroom that needed so much work. But yes, they are surveying right now all of the bathrooms in our schools and going to put attention to the ones that get the most use, and also the ones that the public use when they come in, for instance, to the dog pounders, other places where the public enters and may use one of our bathrooms. So they're going to be doing that, Ms. Hannah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we have a report which was prepared, and I'm going to speak to and walk through. If we can go to the next slide. So a few years ago, there was created the Capital Improvement Committee. Mr. Riddle and myself are the assigned board members. We did this to review as needed our 10-year capital improvement plan, to kind of sit down, look at priorities and assessments and provide recommendations to the plan. Next slide, please. The Capital Improvement Plan is a multi-year plan that identifies buildings infrastructure needs for sustainability, major equipment replacement, capital projects, and provides for streamlined financial forecasting. The plan can be adjusted as infrastructure needs change over time. And so we've seen how that plan can be fluid and reactive, even in COVID, right? We didn't say, oh, because COVID is here throughout the plan. We figured out how to integrate the plan into some of the things that we did in order to respond to COVID, like pre-planned HVAC upgrades. Next slide, please. Capital Improvement Committee met on Wednesday, February 10th and Thursday, February 18th for approximately an hour. Next slide, please. The main topics of conversation are reprioritizing paving of parking lots. I know that's a big one. And plumbing work, tuck pointing at Whittier North, Greenwood, Abbott, Washington, and Webster. Life safety eligible item amendments, as well as Mr. Riddle spoke to it, but scheduling restroom enhancements and remodeling with grant funding. The modulars, which is a big thing to me. I know our principals love them, but we also know that they are old and out of date. And so we're looking at some options with those modulars at both Glenford and Washington Elementary, as well as separating life safety eligible items with existing amendments and those eligible items that may need revised or updated amendments. Next slide, please. This I'll let you guys look at, but it shows the capital improvement projects that are planned to be from summer of 2021. We got bathroom upgrades, roof upgrades, window replacements, locker rooms. Ms. Hannah, I know you love seeing that. Some abatement things that are going on. The cost of these items, estimated cost is $5,332,168. I mean, $5,332,168,000 is the estimated cost. All right, next slide, please. This just continues some of the things that improvement projects that are recommended. And this is based on conversation as well as looking at all the different projects and what items can be done at the same time. For example, Mr. Moden has been a big proponent. If we're going in to remediate asbestos, for example, or upgrade something, let's look at all the projects and the entire scope and not do it piecemeal, but replace the entire area or combine projects so that we can save on cost. As you see on here, same thing, roofing repairs, bleachers, seatings, different renovations. Next slide, please. So the grand total of our estimated upgrades this summer will be $13,806,168,000. So $13 million. When people talk about, you know, one of the things I'm most proud of as a board member, this is it, is being able to put the money and the resources directly in the classroom and ensuring that our students and our staff have buildings that are safe and keep them safe and healthy. And these help put us on that track. So if the board remembers, we set aside $10 million over 3 years, right? We did some projects and we restructured so that we're going to add an additional, you know, 3.8 million in order to accomplish more projects this year. And that means unless the board authorizes more money, next year's spend will be slightly less. But you guys know this is one of the things that I am a big proponent on, as well as the board and the superintendent. Next slide, please. So next steps, architect design and review proposed project specifications. We want to advertise it and get it bid. What budget considerations are there based on the bids? Do we need to adjust the recommendations to the Board of Education? And then we actually want to award the projects. Next slide, please. And so the questions can be, will be geared to Deputy Moten, but are there any questions based on the presentation? Go ahead, Ms. Wozniak.
I see that we're redoing Monroe Street. That's ours to redo. It's not the city's. And also, wouldn't it be more efficient to do the parking lot at Brookside as well at the same time we're doing the Monroe Street, if that's our responsibility?
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ewing. Thank you for the question, Ms. Callahan Wozniak. So we did discuss that. If the board would recall, several years ago, we actually designed the Monroe Street parking lot at Brookside campus because we use that for PACE buses that have a heavy weight on them. We also had a lot of drainage repairs that needed to be done. So we've been doing a lot of maintenance work and repairs throughout the years. But the reason why it's resurfaced on the list is because of the condition and the fact that we want to minimize the several thousands of dollars in annual repairs and temporary fixing that we do. We will certainly be looking at, based on recommendations of staff, any potential alternative pricing for the other sections of the parking lot if there are cost benefits to doing that. But as Mr. Ewing and Mr. Riddle have mentioned, we're trying to ensure that items that were previously on the list or have been reprioritized based on needs are addressed first, which is why we separated that section. But as we move forward, and as Mr. Ewing mentioned on the slide that said next steps, obviously the bids that we receive will either be able to do more or do less and have to reprioritize again. We want to make sure that the needs are mentioned specifically, so that you all are aware, and for the parking lot specifically, that's something that's been on the radar for several.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
Mr. Moten, as well as board president and vice president, did you all discuss the hot water situation in our buildings and making sure that the hot water is adequate, because at this time with the COVID, we need to make sure that the waters in our building buildings are at adequate temperature for hand washing. And I know I've been getting a lot of concerns regarding that. And so could you please address that?
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. So as you saw during the presentation, we did reprioritize plumbing, but the district operations staff has assessed, and we do have hot water at all buildings. As we go through the buildings consistently with our regular work orders through the maintenance department, if there's any needs or concerns that are brought forward, those items along with mechanical items will be prioritized at the top of the list for repairs. But working with the operations team and Mr. Kruckerberg's team, they have assessed and they have provided that there is hot water available in the buildings.
Okay.
And Ms. Hannah, also, if I could include, this work never stops. So, you know, we're constantly doing improvements as well, particularly in the plumbing area, repiping, et cetera. So, you know, you'll see those items within the scope of work and the improvements, similar to what's been done recently, for example, at Jack Benny Middle School. So that's something that we're constantly evolving and we're constantly addressing. But as far as hot water, that's what's been investigated and reviewed. Thank you.
So Board President and Vice President Riddle, just wondering, or Deputy Moulton here, the 1 million that is received, is that going to be used for this year, or is that going to be used for capital projects the following year?
Thank you, Ms. Leguizamo. So if you all may recall, we had written into the state budget a $1 million appropriation for capital improvements. We recently received, just prior to our first meeting with the Capital Improvement Committee, acknowledgement from the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, which we believe is the same line item appropriation for $1 million, that we can utilize it for this purpose. And as we're working with the DCEO to ensure that all those items are eligible and we have all the necessary documentation in order, it is our desire to put those funds towards restroom upgrade initiatives and start those as soon as those funds are available to us or the documentation that is submitted is formally approved by the DCEO. But that is our intention, to work on those. And if needed, we will go through the building systematically and make those year-round projects so that work the flow and it's not just dependent on summer months.
Okay, and I was just wondering, because I don't think I saw it on the list, but Washington campus's locker rooms, was that on the list? I don't think I did see it, but if you can talk a little bit about the Washington campus locker rooms, because that's where a lot of the basketball spectators go to, or not just basketball, but any sort of main event that happens at the dog pound. That's where they go for their restrooms.
Ms. Leguizamo, were you referencing the restrooms or the locker rooms at Washington campus?
Well, whenever I go for any sort of sports activity, they always refer me to the locker rooms to use the ladies' room. Is there a different one that's supposed to refer me to?
So we have the restrooms for public use and student use during the day that feed into the dog pound that we would review and prioritize, review in the prioritization schedule with the general restroom upgrades throughout the district. Separately, we have the locker room noted on the list for Brookside campus, but we also have a second locker room at Brookside and 2 locker rooms at Washington campus that we're reviewing with Mr. Kruckerberg's team to see if those areas can be addressed in the current year, which is why you don't see them reflected on the list. And if Mr. Kruckerberg is on the call, he can speak to that. But we did identify some areas where we can make some additional improvements for the current year as well.
Yeah, I do see the Brookside locker room is on the list. I didn't see the Washington campus ones.
Yes, those we're evaluating and we're looking to do in the current year. Boys and girls.
And I'm also excited to see that Weiss Field will be having an upgrade in regards to their locker room / restrooms. I know that there was a point where the ladies did not have facilities around that area. So I'm really excited to see where all of that goes, and I'd like to see the plans for that. So I'm really excited.
Board President, I have just a quick question. As long as we're talking about locker rooms and bathrooms, let's not forget about the ones in the trap auditorium. Those were just very disgusting, and not only for our own students who put on plays and performances, but for visiting groups that come in to perform as well. So I'm not sure if anything's been done with those bathrooms, but they were in pretty bad shape some years ago.
Yeah, and is the initiative for the district to go touchless as we're upgrading a lot of bathrooms for our fixtures? Just kind of wondering on that.
That is correct. As we're updating fixtures in the restrooms, we are going to touchless, and we started when we made the renovations to the restroom at Hyde Park for the Diverse Learners Department.
Rick and Brandon, this must be a lot of exciting work for you guys.
I think it's exciting work for the district. My son attends Cook. Cook is a 100-year-old building. I know I went to Benny. Mr. McBride was if he was here, he would say, I wrote my name on the locker at Jefferson, however many years ago, and it's still there. So I think the comments and the concerns that individuals have, are warranted. But I think Mr. Moulton and our maintenance department take pride in these buildings, and they've been working to address issues. And just because we haven't been in the buildings doesn't mean that work hasn't been done or doesn't continue. So thank you. And that's the comments. I think Mr. Moulton, I guess if you want to confirm or present a report or something about the hot water, that continues to be a subject that comes up continually. So thank you for your work with the committee. To Deputy Moulton's point, he has really gotten us to think in a forward-looking way in which we know how much things will cost. We reprioritize it based on needs. We put projects together in group scopes of work so we can get them done more efficiently and effectively. And there has been a massive amount of work that has been done over the last few years, and that will continue. So thank you, Deputy Moulton, for leading that committee. That committee consists of parents, 2 board members, different staff from areas, finance is at the table. So we're not, biting off more than we can chew. When I say, hey, let's set 20 million aside, Gwen says, hold up now. So that is, you need all those stakeholders at the table. So thank you to all involved for those efforts in that work. Now, are there any other committee reports? All right. Our student board member did let me know that he would not be able to make it this evening. He said he did not have anything to report. However, he looks forward to joining us at the March 9th meeting, and he does have some ideas that he's excited to present to the public and the Board of Education. And so we will see him then. Ms. Hannah, do you have anything for delegates report?
Just would like to encourage all the board members to look at their emails and watch Dean Langdon emails because they're offering a number of virtual events for board members. You can earn your points for leadership, master board member, maintenance of master board. And so just watch your emails for Dean Langdon. And there's some there that that are very interesting. That's it, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. I know for superintendent's report, you had a presentation, and for the public, this was what I mentioned earlier, where typically at the board meeting, we do not entertain questions outside of the initial public comment. But because this was a presentation that was supposed to be done at our operations meeting that did not happen, I want to give that same opportunity to Dr. Hillary and her team, as well as the community members who may have questions. So Dr. Hillary, the floor is yours, and we will listen attentively. Board members as well as community members, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation.
Thank you, President Ewing. Good evening, Superintendent, board members, and community members. We appreciate the opportunity to circle back and provide you with what we consider to be a critical component of district functions, our McKinney-Vento Support Services Program. Lee is going to help me with the slides. Carlos is also on the line, as well as our two McKinney-Vento liaisons and representatives from the McKinney-Vento.org, which is a national organization. We'll start out by just a basic, what is McKinney-Vento 101? McKinney-Vento 101 is a Homeless Education Act that was enacted, short story, just to ensure that students who are misplaced, students who are in transitional living are not barred from being able to enroll in school and enroll in the school that best suits their needs in relationship to daily school attendance. It was found that students were in transitional living and being asked for documentation of address and birth certificates and things of that nature that may have not been available, were being excluded from being able to register and connect with a school. So this legislation was born out of the fact to prevent students from being excluded for long periods of time without being able to get an education. Next slide, Lee. The legislation speaks very directly to the rights of homeless students. I'm going to say right now is that we do not necessarily like to use the word homeless. It is part of the legislation, but we refer to our students as McKinney-Vento certified. They're students just like anyone else. And a homeless tag is not always a positive tag that our students need to be struggling and challenging with. So we do them the honor of making sure that we keep that information private, and it's not something that we tag a student with in relationship to their living and transitional living status. The rights are clear. Students are allowed to immediately enroll. They can remain in their home school, or they can remain in the school district that they're currently residing in. And that's a big deal for students. One of the good things we can say about the Waukegan area is that our students who live in Waukegan, who have attended school in Waukegan and who may move away, want to remain connected to Waukegan. And so we thank everyone in the district who makes it possible for our McKinney-Vento students to feel comfortable. They 99.9% of the time elect to remain in Waukegan. They may live anywhere in the county or the state or the world, basically, but they always want to be in Waukegan. So we consider that to be a privilege and an honor to serve them. Transportation is a caveat because we know that that is a barrier for many students to be able to get to school on time, and get to school on a daily basis. So the legislation does afford for title funds to be allocated to make sure that students are transported in a healthy and safe manner, but also in a respectful and private manner. We don't send school buses to hotels. We don't make declarations of, you know, this bus route is only for students who are McKinney-Vento. So we try very hard to make sure, and especially with our teens and preteens, that they are not singled out and made to feel like because I'm being picked up at the roadway inn, then there's a putting two to two together and saying that my situation is different from another's. Students are afforded the opportunity to participate in tutoring and instructional support programs without cost, and they are to receive the same services as any other student in our district. The piece that we work very hard on is training school-based staff to make sure that they understand these expectations, and we work them through these expectations when necessary. Fee waivers, which is a really big deal for our students. They can accumulate a lot of debt, and a lot of times they do not reveal, especially our older students, that they may have had transitional or home status issues. So we work with them to make sure that school fees are waived, textbooks, anything that is required for the learning process. In this remote time, we go with Chromebooks and chargers and charger cords. Anything that students need, we make sure that they have, and we make sure that they do not have any unnecessary and undue fees as it relates to being a student on a daily basis. Next slide, Lee. This is a slide that we share a lot with our school staffs in terms of what are the common signs of homelessness. One of the good things about the Department of Student Outreach is that all of our tenants, attendance and truancy, behavior and discipline, alternative placement, all relate back to what does the student need and how do we make sure they get what they need. A lot of times, students' behaviors are outgrowths of what may be going on in their lives. So we don't necessarily believe that just because a student doesn't come to school means that they don't want to come to school or they're truant. It simply means that there's some underlying conditions that may be preventing them from attending school on a daily basis. And we ask staff to look at these things because they see our students every single day. They know them very well. And some of the things of students acting out in class or students not coming to school with their clothes clean or orderly and missing their backpack or their homework is not necessarily in order. These can be signs of homelessness. There can be signs that there are some things that are going on in the home that are preventing the student from being focused. And these are common things that we ask staff to look for and to also talk to students, talk to parents, because they have to feel comfortable sharing what their situation is, especially their living situation, because there's fear of being removed from the school district, fear of being removed from the community. When you couple that with some immigration challenges and things of that nature. So these are the kinds of trainings that we do to make sure that all staff in every department, every strata of the district are familiar with what it means for a student to be challenged and how that challenge plays itself out in different places in the classroom and in the school building. Next slide, Lee. The McKinney-Vento program, who do we serve? We're sharing a little bit of data with you from the Continuum of Care, which is a county-wide homeless coalition that helps kind of guide and determine the resources that are available in Waukegan and Lake County. It's also good to know that Waukegan is considered a human and social service hub. So there's lots and lots of resources and availabilities that we have been able to connect our families with. We have grown our McKinney-Vento program to a place where we're now helping families with housing. We're helping them identify sources to pay bills, to get employment and daycare and things of that nature. And a lot of that comes from our relationship with some of the consortiums here in the county, as well as county agencies. Next slide. Those may be a little small, but you can see them. And it basically just tells us where our students are living at. I chose North Chicago and Waukegan because those are very fluid areas for us. Our students typically transition from Waukegan to North Chicago to Zion and kind of back and forth. And so those are the communities that we pay close attention to because they're the ones that we have lots of relationship with and we do lots of traveling to. We have been put in a position of being able to receive tons and tons of support and donations in the form of food and different things from agencies, clothing, school supplies, and things of that nature that we can never get too much of, because we're constantly making sure that our students are replenished, because school supplies only last for a little bit, and we need to replenish coats, hats, everything that you can name. We just this past weekend provided 150 families with fresh food, vegetables, chicken, eggs, and milk that was donated to us by an agency in Buffalo Grove. We hopped in our cars, we picked up the items, and by Saturday afternoon, they were all delivered to the families that needed them the most. For Waukegan School District 60, most of our students are doubled up. Doubled up is a McKinney-Vento designation that says they most of the time live with family, and that makes very good sense. They're living in extended family situations. They're living temporarily with aunts, uncles, and cousins and things of that nature. And a lot of time the belief system is that, well, they have a place to live. Yes, they do have a place to live, but it is transitional, it is temporary, and unless their name is on the lease or in the home ownership docket, then it's not their home. The second top place that our students live are hotels and motels, and those are primarily in the area of Green Bay Road, so we do a lot of outreach in that area for our students. We mostly have elementary and middle school students who identify as McKinney-Vento. Our high school students are a little bit slower to disclose because of some of the social types of things that go along with where do you go after school, how do you manage, your life with social, and social media makes it a little easier not to have to reveal where you're living at and how you can connect with your friends. But we find that our older students are more reluctant to explain their living situation. They don't sometimes understand that if they're what they call chilling with a friend and couch surfing, that they are McKinney-Vento and that we can help them. So we make sure that we connect with PADS and other community agencies. We're on speed dial with all of them and they with us, so that we can make sure that as soon as a student or family experiences food or clothing or housing insecurity, Jackie Washington and Nilsa Martinez, our two McKinney-Vento liaisons, are right there. And this goes on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, especially during the holidays and especially during the wintertime when, believe it or not, more people are displaced from their homes during this season than they are probably in the summertime. So those two ladies spend a lot of their time, their weekends. I tell them we don't work on Sundays, but if we have to, we do, because families have us on speed dial as well, and they know that they call and they text and they will get results, and we will deliver to them what they need at that particular time. Next slide, Lee. This again is just the continuum of care that basically is the dashboard for the homeless assistance program. And it's what we kind of use as metrics to determine what happens to a student once they come into the district. We have, the statistics show this, that most students or most families are homeless or without permanent housing for 45 days or more. We also know that what we experience in Waukegan in our school district is what we consider to be chronic homelessness, where students and families may become whole at one time for a moment in time, and then within the next maybe month or two, that changes. A family member can no longer take them in. They no longer have the ability to contribute to that household, so they are once again displaced. So in our district, we certify McKinney-Vento students for one entire school year, because we know that their situation will change. So from August until June, they can be assured that they're going to be provided services through our district. And then in the summertime, we spend our summer recertifying families. Right now, We have just about 452 families that we're serving, which is extremely low, but we'll get into that in a little bit more. But because of the pandemic, our homeless families are on the move. And when they're on the move, it takes us a little bit of time to find them, to connect with them, and to assure them that they can still be in school and we can help them, as I stated earlier, because we now have some connections to helping with housing. We're able to assure them that leaving Waukegan is not always the easy answer to get support. Next slide, Lee. This again is just a breakdown of the average length of time enduring homelessness over a period of years. Since the Office of Student Outreach was envisioned and we took over the McKinney-Vento program, we have grown it to a point where more families, more schools, more community members are comfortable reaching out to us and letting us know if there's a family in need. Many of you can attest, I get Facebook messages all the time, messenger things, just all the time. Can you talk to a family? Can you help this family? And 10 times out of 10, we can help that family. We just have to know their story, get their situation. We assure them that we will hold their confidence, and we make sure that we not only support them once, but we support them in an ongoing manner so they don't have to feel like we're kind of a one and done type of situation. We come in and we stay, and we help families throughout, because McKinney-Vento is also a program that extends to students as they begin to attend college, and other resources outside of graduation. So we're also available to help with students after they have left our district. Next slide, Lee. This is one of the foundational pieces that we're trying to do, and we thank you for approving our ability to have McKinney-Vento.org provide us with an ability to train every single staff member, instructional and non-instructional, in what does a student who potentially has home insecurities look like, so that we can all be on board when it comes to identifying, supporting, and referring these students. So this process we've been doing manually for the last 2 or 3 years. Jackie, Carlos, myself, and Nilsa kind of come together and do a training a couple of times a year. But we also know that just like the mandated reporter training, there are pieces of the puzzle that need to be formalized and put into a repository where students and families and those who service can know what to look for and how to look for it. So we're excited to be able to partner with McKinney-Vento.org. They are an ISB approved provider. We have been working with them now since the start of the pandemic, and we appreciate, I know that Tom is on the line, the work of bringing this to fruition so that we can do a better job of making sure every single person who is connected to our district has the ability to learn what it means to be a McKinney-Vento student or McKinney-Vento circumstances, and then how do we make sure that the referrals get to us in a timely manner. Next slide. Right now, we have 2 McKinney-Vento liaisons, and they work with certification of students and families. That's a conversation, a lengthy one. Transportation, housing referrals, health and safety referrals, and managing the distributions of food, personal care items, and more. Part of our request as well is for 2 additional McKinney-Vento liaisons, because our program is growing. As I stated earlier, we have 452 students now. Last year, we were vacillating between 500 and 700. We know that when school starts back, many of our McKinney-Vento students will return to the area, and our numbers will climb once again, because those students most want to be connected to school. They want the comfort and the assurance of school environments. And so we are spending our time now with the help of our safety staff in the district with tracking down our homeless families who have disconnected from us and making sure they understand that they can come back under a potential hybrid model. And that was the piece I just referenced, the request for additional staff, which is 2, the job classification of their paraprofessionals. HR gave us a salary range, and their focus would be on transportation and coordination and the procurement of community resources and growing our ability to work with housing and utility companies and all the things that go along with helping families to establish permanent housing. That is one of our big lofty goals, is to be in a position to help families get housing that is theirs and they are able to remain and retain their residency in Waukegan. This is just the job description for your information. Next slide, Lee. And this, of course, is just the salary range that we were provided from the Human Resources Department related to the current classification. Our McKinney-Vento liaisons are part of the classification of B, and they are listed here as the residency/homeless liaison. Next slide. So here again is just a small snapshot of where we started when we began this journey with identifying students to where we are now. And as you can see, it ebbs and flows, even though this is what we would consider a small portion or percentage of our district's total population. It is a very critical population in that these students are very vulnerable to the community, very vulnerable to not being school engaged, not progressing and prospering in schools. And so part of our goal is to make sure that we stabilize the situation for these families so that their students can make school a priority. It's very difficult when you're not living in a permanent home and you have some concerns about what's happening when you go home, to focus. And we try to take away everything that would impede their focus so they can have a little peace and a little ability to get the work done that schools require. This is just a slide that tells us we're about equal in terms of a little more of our African-American students are McKinney-Vento. Of course, the next population is our Latino population. But again, our district is primarily Black and Brown. So it makes sense that the statistics would bear this out. But that adds another layer of concern because of all the vulnerabilities that these student subgroups deal with on a daily basis. Not having secure and adequate homes situation makes it that much, makes them that much more vulnerable to the things we see that goes on in our society related to, our Black males and Black females, and just some of the tragedies we face are born out of a lot of these insecurities. Next slide. And so here we are in terms of, we broke it down just a little bit to show that a good number of our students are English language learners and diverse learners. And so those come with special additions that we work on. We work very closely with the diverse learner department to make sure that transportation and school needs and things are met. The same with any department is that when things are needed and specifically to this particular student population, then the Office of Student Outreach makes sure that we are responding to those requests and those needs. By gender, we see that, a little more boys than girls or males than females. Not quite sure how that phenomenon plays itself out, but certainly we know that, boys across the spectrum in our educational classrooms are at risk just because I'm sorry, did you have a question? No, okay. But that's just a slide to give us some information about males and females. And our last one is a very important theorist to my education, my background is Abraham Maslow, lays it out very well, and it's always relevant. And we're right there at the foundation of his hierarchy of needs, is that we're dealing with the physiological and safety needs of our children and their families. The food, the water, the basic necessities of life, a healthy home, being able to secure employment, all those things matter. And without those things, our children cannot ascend to the next level. You can't get to self-actualization until you have some food and you have some clothes and you're comfortable and satisfied with your basic daily needs. And for those of us who have the blessing of being able to have our basic needs met, and some of it we take for granted, but we have families who struggle mightily, and we consider it our mission to be able to help, to be able to understand, to not pass judgment, and to make sure that every step of the way that the students know they have an advocate in our district. We do have many who may not understand the program, may have some questions about the program. It can be a program that is expensive and it seems to cater to, but to that we make no apologies, because this is a population that demands that we help and we hold and we make sure that they're good. And we just, as our motto and outreach is, we get it done. And we get it done without question, we get it done without excuse, and we get it done. So with that,
I got a couple questions. But go ahead, Charlotte.
You go ahead, Anita.
Well, I was just wondering, Dr. Hillary, is there, because this is federal legislation, has the federal government, I guess, maybe put money where their legislation is? And
they have not put, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, because I know we were receiving COVID funds, and I was wondering if the McKinney-Vento also received a portion of funds to support this program. And then I'll say my second question. I know that at one point there was some issues regarding some of the local motels that were housing our students. And I'm just wondering, I haven't heard any follow-up from the city, because that's their jurisdiction. And I'm just wondering, were those concerns addressed and or abated?
Yes, I can respond to your first question. McKinney-Vento does not designate any specific funds for the Homeless Education Act, but our funding is tied to title funding. So currently we're working to secure a bigger piece of the pie, so to speak, in terms of title funding, because our transportation costs are rising. As you see, we're asking for additional staff and the resources that we have. And I'll be very honest, we are sustained a lot by donations, of food, of clothing, of books and supplies and things of that nature. We do get donations monetarily that allows us to buy items for students to be given. But there is a desire that we have a bigger portion of an allocation of the title funds, because the McKinney-Vento program is something that even when we're waiving fees for students and things of that nature, that's still an expense. And that's still something that we need to be able to show the amount that the district ends up waiving, because I'm sure from Gwen's side of the house, that's something that needs to be demonstrated in its support of the program, as well as the rationalization for more funding. But it borders on being an unfunded mandate, but the funds typically for most districts across the United States are allocating title funds. And then the last one with the hotel and motels, we have developed relationships where we call upon the hotels, we check on the situations that families report to us. The last one that was reported to us was resolved. We visited the hotel, we talked to the management, we let them know what our concerns were, and they were happy to resolve them. And we also had some conversation with city leaders about just the realization that a lot of the hotels that are up and down Green Bay Road have become what we would consider to be motels motels basically, where families are residing. So we asked for extra, patrols and protection and things of that nature, and they have agreed readily. The city has been very amenable to us. We have a good relationship with the various city leaders to make sure that they're checking on our babies on a regular basis.
And one last thing, could you clarify, please, that, and which I found out, and that I didn't know, that the school district has no authority or jurisdiction over where the students and their families reside. That our school doesn't have that liability.
Yes, that is correct. When students are residing and their families at hotels or motels, they typically are receiving vouchers from various community agencies, from Mother's Trust, from Catholic Charities, from PADS even during the pandemic. So those vouchers are agreements with specific hotels and motels that we have no control over. We just know that once our students reside there, they share their address, and we know that that's where they live for a certain amount of time. Most of the time, the vouchers are for 2 to 4 weeks. After that, the family has to move on, and that's where we jump in to help and kind of stabilize the housing. But the vouchers are at the behest of the issuing agency. And so if they have a relationship with the Roadway Inn or Executive Inn, then that's where our families will land. But we don't have, as a district, any authority or any involvement in where those vouchers go and who those vouchers go to.
Thank you very much. Wozniak?
The slide on page 14 shows 568 students, but I kept hearing 452. That's families. So there's 2 children or 3 children in some of these families that are.
Yes, there is, but I will preface that we made these slides. We were supposed to give this presentation a couple of months ago. And so our numbers have fluctuated since then, and we did not update the slide. But from the initial of 221, we did not include that in the slide. That's where the 452 is. That's for this school year right now, the 21-22 school year, or 2021 school year.
So
these are multiple families.
We've lost contact with some of these students.
Yes, as I said earlier, when the pandemic started, many of our families who were in doubled up situations or hotels left the area. Some of them let us know they were leaving because they needed to live in a place where they could be healthy and safe. And so they have not returned. Some of them were in the process of tracking down. It takes a little time. Because we have some telephone contact numbers, some email, some texting. We also turn to social media, but we have to get them back to the community. And most will go to Chicago, to Kenosha, They'll live with families there until they can get their footing. But many are hesitant to return to Waukegan because they may have been in a household that had many people in it, or they might have been in a hotel that the hotels typically don't provide cleaning and health and safety equipment and things of that nature. So, and that's a phenomenon nationwide that McKinney-Vento numbers have dropped for school districts because students are on the move. And McKinney-Vento students and families are typically on the move, but now more so than ever.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hillary. Ms. Logizamo, final question, then I'm gonna go to some of the questions that we had in the chat, and then I want to close it out on this important work that you all are doing. Go ahead, Ms. Logizamo.
Thank you, Board President. Thank you again, Dr. Hillary, on this presentation. When I read through it the first time, it's a lot of good information. This program holds near and dear to my heart. I wish I knew about it when I was in a similar situation, but time happens, right? But what I'd like to understand is, do you have any statistics or information or programs about for these students for after high school plans?
We do. That's one of our growth areas. We have begun the process of working with Ms. Fulton for the students who are using Naviance, the college and career pieces. We're helping get fees waived for students who present or have McKinney-Vento certification status. Most colleges and universities have what they call an ombudsman program, and that ombudsman program kind of allows for students who have special circumstances like McKinney-Vento to get special help with housing. I was happy to hear that you mentioned HBCUs because they have a strong reputation for taking in students who are considered homeless and housing them and providing them with support and getting them on their feet so they can start and end college and complete college. So yes, that's one of the areas we have started in, is to make sure that our McKinney-Vento students, the year before last, we sent 2 students on the HBCU tour when it was in force physically. So we were able, with financial donations, to send 2 McKinney-Vento students on that trip. And so those are the kinds of things that we attempt to do with our high school seniors and our students who are at AOC, because they have McKinney-Vento challenges as well. And theirs kind of sometimes get lost in the shuffle because they have so much others to deal with, but we're working with them as well.
That's great to hear. And I noticed in your slide 4 that you mention a lot of different common signs of homelessness. And as we know, and I believe I've heard, you mentioned this in your previous presentations about McKinney-Vento, is when you become a homeless person, you tend to find ways to mask the fact that you are a homeless person, right? And you get really good at it. So I see that you have common signs of homelessness. Is that your strategy on identifying, for lack of better words, closet homeless students?
Yes, it is. And the one thing, and you'll be happy to know that each board member will have an opportunity to participate in the training as well. But homelessness is a very hidden phenomenon. We say, and I have no problem saying that, through my lifetime, as I look back and my trajectory in Waukegan Public Schools, I was homeless. I just didn't realize it. I just didn't know it. I lived with my grandparents, and my grandparents provided for me, but that was not my permanent home. So changing the idea that it's okay to reveal how you live and why. A lot of the ways that we get to certify a student McKinney-Vento is the why. And the why is the painful part. The why is I don't want to talk about what has happened to our family, the disfranchisement and things of that nature. So that's where the ladies come in, Nilsa and Jackie, and they're really able to get to the heart of what's going on. Is that because the why opens the door to us being able to figure out the what and the when and how we can get our students whole and sooner than later, because it's not something that, when a student registers in the district and they indicate that they may be homeless, within 5 minutes, we're talking. As soon as Eric Christensen's office notifies us, we're contacting them within minutes to make sure that they know that immediately they don't have to wait for services and support.
That's great to hear about those strategies. And I just one last final question here. I don't know if you would have the answer to this one, or if Superintendent, you would have the answer to this one, but this is in relation to financing here. Are McKinney-Vento students counted as part of our full-time enrollment of students?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hillary, for that. I was wondering how that is also being funded. Those were all my questions, Board President. I know you wanted to get it out to the community as well. Thank you guys again for the presentation.
Yeah, so as I said, is just like I did at the meeting, if there were questions, I would ask them. Typically, I don't read comments, but I'm going to read one. But there was only one question that I did see, and Dr. Hillary, if you want to defer, that's perfectly fine, but it related to just salaries. Is there a difference? I know part of it was the grant, and if you want to speak to, what that was and some of the added responsibilities that those individuals have, because they work hard.
Yes, and basically salaries are in a range, as we share, based on the person's years of experience, background, and education, and things of that nature. But the McKinney-Vento liaisons, which now is listed as the residency / homeless liaison, is that we're trying to split that because we know that it's a whole nother presentation about residency. Eric and I have been at Christensen have been working together to place more emphasis on residency because that goes hand in hand with our McKinney-Vento population. So the work that's done by this group of individuals is very intensive. It requires training. I have made sure that we have formed a relationship with the Lake County Row as well as ISB, and they have provided us tons and tons of awesome resources and guidance and funds and things to help. But the work that's involved in the liaison work requires, expertise kind of like between teacher, counselor, community liaison, resource person. So the salaries are not necessarily based on anything other than the fact of who comes to the table as a potential candidate and then where their experiences and background lie.
Thank you for that. And I will, because there were no other comments that came in, there was something that I wanted to highlight, which came from DLP. This department provides consistency and security through their services. We were finally able to get a 7th grader who experienced years of inconsistent home security across multiple districts and consequent truancy to school via their transportation services. The truancy officer caused the student much anxiety, but once we could get him to school in the safety of a van and meet with the same people every morning, he started to come to school regularly. He made great progress and was eventually exited from the special education services, right? So this talks about exactly what you said, Dr. Hillary, is unless we meet those social, emotional needs of our students, and especially our students who are most at risk. This student was in, special education classes, and that was the diverse learners classes, and it probably was due to exactly what we talked about, the situations, the external situations that were impacting them in school. So kudos to you and your team and the work that you do. It's important work, it's valued work, And I know that in the time of COVID, you guys have been, as they say in these COVID streets, knocking on doors, going to homes, getting resources for families. I've had, multiple occasions. Dr. Hillary has invited me to come out with families. I know when Amazon did their Christmas holiday celebration, that was always, some celebrations that we're able to do with those families. So continue the good work. We appreciate the presentation. It's sobering. I think we do need to talk about it more, is because I remember there was a statistic that we had 500 homeless students and people in the community were shocked. And I looked, I said, it's kind of becomes the reality that it's not that it's numbing, but I think the more that we make people aware, in addition to district funds, there are funds out there, but we don't want to have to rely on charity, right? So thank you for what it is you all do.
And thank you for Mr. President for saying that, because I'm sitting here listening, excuse me, at all the services that that our district staff are providing these students, and I would hope we can have a conversation at some point, Mr. President, about the outreach budget, and maybe putting more money into that budget, seeing that this work is so vital to the success of our students, and we need to put the money where it's very needed, and this appears to be a program that is in need of funding. And because I have also had the opportunity to visit different activities that was being held at the Welcome Center with Dr. Hillary and her team, and what they do, passing out the coats and the food donations, and just seeing all of that. And so at some point, sir, I hope we can have a conversation about that budget.
And if I can just add one thing that I totally forgot, is that we have a population that of our pre-K babies who are also in our homeless category. That number is growing for our pre-K families. So tomorrow, an organization that I'm a part of, Women United, which is with Lake County United Way, we're going to provide 75 backpacks full of school supplies and items to our pre-K program, so that when they register for school, they get a kind of a welcome backpack from United Way and the Links and Delta Sigma Theta and a few other organizations that I'm a part of. And we feel those are the kind of things that keep us motivated and give us traction, is that when community organizations know what we do, they're more than willing to step up. So as of today, the books arrived on my front door that we purchased for the children. And so we're going to give out 75 backpacks to our new enrollees into the pre-K program, who are also McKinney-Vento students.
Thank you, Dr. Hillary. And I think, Ms. Hannah, I'm always honest with everybody, right? These conversations are extremely important. And while we will start the work, there is a school board election that is coming up. I also would encourage the board to look at our strategic budgeting process, which we've all learned so much about over the last few weeks, right? So as we have those conversations, we do have the mechanisms in place to have those discussions. And I would encourage whatever board sits here to make that a priority. Is when they look at the budget, I say it often, a budget is a moral document. So Ms. Hannah, thank you for bringing that up. Dr. Hillary and Student Outreach, thank you for all that you do, and our McKinney-Vento liaisons. You are appreciated and your work is important. Thank you for your presentation. Deputy Moulton, I know the hour is getting late, so that everybody knows, Mr. Moulton was prepared to speak on a question that came up about air quality. So Deputy Moulton, if you would speak to that, I'm going to bypass the president's report. We're then going to go to new business because we have one item that we need to discuss, and then I'm going to adjourn as it is 9:51. Deputy Moulton, can you please speak to the air quality and the filtration system?
Yes, thank you, Board President Ewing, and those who are still on. So I just wanted to share with everybody, we do appreciate and value the concern we had brought forward as it relates to ventilation and air quality. And I did want to reinforce and provide a few more details regarding the work the Operations Department has done during the school closure period. All the building automation systems, which are the computer systems that control the mechanical systems, have been adjusted to provide maximum fresh air. We've adjusted these in areas where they are running 24 hours a day, not just while the school is occupied during the day. All filters have been replaced more than once, but have been replaced recently as we anticipate the return to in-person instruction. All of the mechanical systems that we have in place in the district and the unit ventilators, the air handlers and the dedicated outside air units do have CO2 sensors, carbon dioxide sensors on them, so that they can be properly adjusted, automatically adjusted whenever the equipment senses a certain level of CO2 in any particular room or office space. However, again, adjusting these so that the dampers that allow the fresh air are open 24 hours a day and they're open to their maximum capacity, while also maintaining adequate temperature in the room, whether it's cold, keeping it a warm temperature in the room, or if it's outside, keeping it a cool temperature. There are several schools that have received brand new mechanical systems, and this is part of the capital improvement plan and pre-planning that was alluded to earlier on in the agenda. At Abbott, Benny, Webster, Clearview, Lyon, and Glen Flora, we have new mechanical systems. We also have addressed windows throughout the district in several schools, particularly recently at Benny, Webster, Little Fort, Glenwood, and Oakdale. But we've also asked all the custodians to inspect the windows throughout the buildings in the classrooms and office spaces that have them to ensure that they're functioning properly. This is very important, and we want to make sure that everything is operational when the staff return so that we can provide the best ventilation possible. We also have reviewed with our engineers and architects some of the potential impacts on additional filtration systems, particularly items that were referenced in HEPA filters and air purifiers. And when we did the analysis based on the size of the coronavirus particles versus the size of the particles that would be filtered out of these filtration systems, we felt it was the best approach to just make sure that our equipment was operable and operating at max capacity. Our building engineers, our Department of Operations engineers, as well as third-party engineering firms that we employ to review our systems and provide these recommendations, are constantly evaluating our systems to ensure they're operating at full capacity. And also mentioned earlier, via the work order system, we are prioritizing several items to be addressed immediately if we do experience any unanticipated mechanical failures, just like we do during the regular school year. This is something that will be prioritized with urgency and a phone call placed. And the appropriate follow-up action will be done to repair the systems within a classroom or a school as needed. We've also identified rooms that are not designated for occupancy in all the schools. So if there's a room that's identified as a storage room, we're not to have those rooms be occupied for student or staff use when we return to in-person instruction. So I did want to provide those updates. Thank you, Board President, for allowing me to do so, and thank you all.
One question that was kind of, it was not clarified at a previous meeting, and I asked about whether our newly installed windows at our buildings that received the new windows, if those windows open, if they open. Can you tell me that, Mr. Moten?
Yes, Ms. Hannah, thank you for asking. All of the locations that receive new windows that I mentioned over this past summer and the year prior to that do have operable windows that open to allow a certain amount of fresh air in. The window designers and the engineers for the school setting do not specify or design window systems that cannot be opened. They are not used as evacuation means. So they're not opening to a point where students or staff can jump out of them, but they are operable and able to be open to allow fresh air in.
That answers my question. Thank you.
All right, and I'm sorry, so there are two things. We are going to vote on the new business, and then there is a legal report. So I will forego my president's report. We're going to go down to 18A, COVID board resolution number 8, work expense reimbursements and non-union staff.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve COVID board resolution number 8 as recommended by the administration.
Mr. Riddle, I make a motion, we approve this resolution as stated.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Wozniak. Any comments or questions? Go ahead, Mr. Riddle.
Yeah, I had a quick question. I don't know if it was, I just wanted clarification on the reimbursement rate in item 1 of this resolution. It just stated up, for people working in the district, 1 day up to 4 days. It doesn't go up to 5. Why is that? Most people work 5 days a week. In that little chart right under paragraph 1.
So I don't have the chart in front of me, but I believe that the first column is 0 to 1 days in the district. That would include if you were 5 days in.
Yeah, it says days in the district per week worked, 0 to 1,
right.
2 to 3. Oh, these are weeks, not, is it says
No,
days in the district per week.
Days within the district. So if you are working outside of the district in a remote location 5 days of the week, you fall in that 0 to 1 category.
Okay. District per week, 0 to 1. Okay, it's just confusing to me when it says days in the district per week and you've got 0 to 1, and you're working the full week, right? 0 to 1 fits in that.
Correct. You're working the full week, but either no days or 1 day is in district buildings.
Oh. Okay, but anyway, it's covering anybody who's working. I guess the chart's a little confusing to me, but I understand what you're saying now. So a person working 5 days, which is most people, would go into that first category. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hannah, did you have a question?
I'm sorry, my microphone's off. No, Mr. President.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Liquizamo?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes. Item approved, motion carries. All right, legal report.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Board President, I'm sorry. Can I just ask a quick question? Because I know that we had recently changed our end of year, which is really more at the end of May kind of thing. And I noticed that this contract ends in July 30th. Are we expecting this to go into the summer school program as well?
Are you speaking to the resolution?
Yes.
We just tied it to the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, the fiscal year. Got it. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead, Ms. Vanderbroek, with the legal report, please.
Yes, just a brief report. Just wanted to acknowledge that the administration has received the PTAC resolutions. We've been very busy this last week with some negotiations and other planning activities, so we will be coming back to the board with information about that for further consideration. That's it.
Thank you. And now we are going to, it's 10 o'clock. Board members, is there any dying thing that you need to say under board member time, or can we go away and adjourn for the evening? Thank you all for those who attended. We appreciate you came out and the questions that were asked. Appreciate all the presentations and the work that was done by the staff. Thank you to each board member. And with that, I'd like to.
Wait. One question, just a quick one. Regarding the comments and questions in the chat. Are we monitoring those? And what I'm saying, Mr. President, are we keeping track of those comments and questions in the chat? So at some point, we will be able to come back and to address the questions that were posed to us in the chat.
There is a mechanism in place to monitor the chats during the board meetings. I do not monitor, those comments outside of what I did today with making an exception for the McKinney-Vento program. So to your main point is we don't monitor the chat. Sometimes administration staff do respond in the comments, but I do not read those during the board meetings because I treat it the same way if we would be in person. We wouldn't be responding to sidebar questions or conversations.
Right.
We do at committee meetings, I do look at the chat, read the chat and the comments and ask those questions. So Superintendent, I think Ms. Hannah, if there are questions that were posed, Superintendent Placencia and Mr. Alajakis, if you guys would monitor those and add those to the list, so when our facts page is created, we can make sure that those questions are taken into account if it relates to our school reopening plan. With that, I'd like for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Leguizamo.
Motion by Ms. Wozniak, second by Ms. Leguizamo. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen-Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes, thank you all. Meeting adjourned. Have a great evening.
Thank you all.
Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.